Hillcrest Estate woke slowly, its white mansions glowing under the soft Licora morning sun. But in the servants' quarters, behind the largest house, Zara Nkem Adeyemi was already awake. 5:30 a.m., same time every day. Barefoot on the cool tiles, she moved with quiet elegance, not hurried, not clumsy precise. She dusted the glass table, arranged Adrian Cole Lawson's scattered legal documents by date, wiped the fingerprints from the marble counters. Even in silence, she carried a dignity that felt too large for the small room she lived in. Her plain gown never hid her poise. Her bun was neat, her eyes calm, but sharp. Zara didn't talk much, but she noticed everything the way Adrian rushed through his mornings. The legal notes he left half-drafted, the stress he hid behind crisp suits. By 8:45 a.m., Adrian descended the stairs in his usual navy blue suit. "Zara," he said, eyes on his phone, "iron my white shirt and check my court shoes." "Yes, sir," she answered softly. Then the bell rang loud, expensive, unnecessary. Zara opened the door, and in swept Vanessa Armadaniels, Adrian's girlfriend, all perfume, glitter, and arrogance. "Ah, the maid," Vanessa said, rolling her eyes. "You again." Zara bowed slightly. "Good morning, Ma." Vanessa didn't reply. She pushed past her, then snapped, "Next time, open the door properly. You nearly hit my face. Use your sense." Zara froze only for a breath. Inside her chest, something tightened, invisible, familiar. But she lowered her eyes, swallowed dignity like medicine, and whispered, "Sorry, Ma." Adrian watched from the living room. He heard everything. He did nothing. Zara returned to the kitchen. She didn't sigh. She didn't break, but her silence felt like a room holding in a scream. Later that evening, after cooking, cleaning, and locking the back door, Zara slipped into her tiny BQ room. The moment she sat, her shoulders dropped. Her back ached, her feet throbbed, yet her face remained calm, the face of a woman carrying storms quietly. She turned on her cracked phone and video called her younger sister Amara, whose smile burst onto the screen like sunlight. "Sis, why do you look tired like that? Who annoyed you again?" Zara smiled, faintly tired but grateful. "Just one of those days." She didn't cry. She never let herself cry. Later, as the compound fell into darkness, Zara opened her notebook and wrote her nightly reminder. Light doesn't die because no one sees it. She closed her eyes. Tomorrow would test her again. The next morning, the mansion returned to its polished routine. Cooks chopping vegetables, security guards signing in, engines humming as Licora's elite left for work. But inside her small BQ room, Zara lay awake long before dawn, staring at the ceiling fan as it sliced the silence. Yesterday's humiliation still clung to her skin. When she finally stepped outside with her broom, her movements felt heavier. Not defeated, just tired of being strong, where no one bothered to see her strength. By noon, Adrian had already left for the firm, and Vanessa had stormed out for a meeting that was mostly for show. The house quieted. Zara finished the chores, washed her hands, and packed her bag. She couldn't sit in silence today. The journey to Rosewood District took 2 buses and a motorcycle. Dust coated her scarf. The sun toasted her arms. But something inside her felt eager, the quiet kind of hope that only one person in the world could give her. At the end of a noisy corridor filled with laughter, shouting, and music from 3 different hostels, she knocked. "Who be that?" "It's me." The door flung open. Amara, wrapped in a loose wrapper, holding a plate of akara, lit up instantly. "Zara, you didn't even tell me you were coming." Her hug was warm, tight, the kind that melts exhaustion on contact. They sat on the small mattress, legs folded, the fan rattling above them. The chaotic hostel felt like a sanctuary because Amara's presence made every space feel like home. "What happened?" she pressed. Zara explained the insults, Adrian's indifference, the way they treated her like a joker in her own skin. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't even sound angry. She spoke like a woman who had carried burdens so long they felt like part of her bones. Amara's face tightened. "No, no, no, no. I reject it. You will not shrink yourself because of people who think money is sense." Zara looked down, fingers trembling slightly. Amara softened. "Sister, do you know who you are? Do you remember?" Silence. Then Amara leaned forward, lowered her voice, and said the words that broke Zara's quiet shell. "You taught girls in the North to read. You coordinated whole zones. You spoke 6 languages before I even passed JAM. You fed our family when Daddy fell sick. You carried me. You carried all of us." A tear slipped. Not dramatic, not loud, just the truth escaping. Amara touched her hand. "Go back home. Check your old NYSC bag, the green one under your bed. Everything about who you used to be is inside there." Zara inhaled deeply, slowly. For the first time in months, she smiled small, but real. The walk back to Hillcrest felt different. The mansion didn't intimidate her. The silence didn't swallow her. She unlocked her BQ room, knelt, pulled out the old bag, wiped dust off the zipper, and opened it. Old ID cards, faded notebooks, and flashcards from literacy classes, a scarf from Kaduna camps, pieces of a woman she had buried under survival. As she held the documents, her chest tightened, but this time with recognition. She wasn't invisible. She had only forgotten her reflection. Tomorrow, she would remember. Morning sunlight filtered through the marble floors of Marina View Towers, the headquarters of Cole Lawson Bellow attorneys. Inside the boardroom, the atmosphere carried the weight of money, ego, and power. Glass walls, gold frames, polished shoes, the kind of place where no one expected a maid's name to be spoken. But today, it was. Barrister Adrian Cole Lawson stood beside Chief Olu Bello, reviewing plans for the firm's 10-year anniversary gala. Vanessa sat nearby, legs crossed, phone in hand, pretending to listen while scanning gossip blogs about Licora's elites. Chief Bello clapped. "Echo Grand Hall is waiting for us. We need an unforgettable night." Vanessa smirked. "Then invite everyone from your household, Adrian, including your maid. Let her come and mingle with the big people." Adrian froze for half a heartbeat. The comment was clearly venom wrapped in velvet. Chief Bello burst into laughter. "Ah, let her not come with a broom, oh. These house girls don't know how to behave around money." More laughter, more mockery. No one considered how Zara might feel. Adrian tried to keep a straight face, though something inside him shifted uncomfortably. Still, he said nothing to stop them. "You're serious?" he asked Vanessa quietly. She leaned closer, voice sweet but sharp. "Of course. Let's see how she survives a room full of people she cannot serve." The decision, disguised as kindness, was a trap. That evening, Adrian returned to Hillcrest Estate with Vanessa trailing behind him like glittering perfume. Zara stepped out of the kitchen, her scarf tied neatly, hands still smelling faintly of stew. "Good evening, sir." "Good evening, Ma." Adrian cleared his throat, avoiding her eyes. He paused, searching for the right tone. We're having a 10-year anniversary event on Saturday. You can attend. Vanessa tilted her head dramatically. Yes, but please, don't wear those nylon slippers you used to fetch Maggie from the shop. It's Echo Grand Hall, not Mile 12 Market. Zara felt the sting, but she didn't flinch. She didn't break. Her gaze softened, neutral, controlled. Thank you, sir. I will consider it. Her calmness unsettled Vanessa more than anger ever could. As Zara walked back into the kitchen, carrying a tray of glasses she understood perfectly. They didn't invite her to celebrate her. They invited her to embarrass her. But they didn't know she had already opened her NYSC bag. They didn't know she had seen her past again. They didn't know that something powerful had awakened inside her. Saturday would not be what they expected. Saturday would be her beginning. Saturday morning arrived with a slow, heavy breath over Hillcrest Estate. The mansion buzzed faintly as cooks prepared breakfast and the gardener trimmed the hedges, but inside the servants' quarters, Zara and Kim Adeyemi sat quietly on her narrow bed, staring at the old green NYSC bag she had pulled out the night before. For a long moment, she simply looked at it, the bag that once followed her across Kaduna camps, literacy centers, and dusty community halls, the bag that held the version of herself she had tucked away to survive. Then she unzipped it fully. Inside lay fragments of a life she had almost forgotten. A faded ID card from Resafe, a girls' initiative. Flashcards she once used to teach young girls. Old notebooks filled with carefully written Hausa lessons. A photo of her addressing a group of women under a tree. Each item hit her chest like truth returning home. She touched the flashcard gently. B is for book. Why do we read? And she remembered the little girl who whispered, so we can grow? A soft knock pulled her back. When she opened the door, Amara stood there, out of breath, clutching a nylon bag. Her dreadlocks were tied loosely, her hostile slippers dusty from rushing. You didn't think you'd face the day alone, right? She said, brushing past her with sisterly authority. Zara swallowed the rising emotion. I didn't expect you to come this early. Amara unpacked the bag makeup wipes, a small powder palette, a hairbrush, and a long emerald dress folded carefully like treasure. You're not wearing their borrowed lace, Amara declared. You're wearing this. Zara hesitated. It's too much. No, Amara said firmly. It's not enough. You forgot who you are. Today we remind the world. Zara touched the fabric. Cool, soft, dignified. Not loud like vanity, not flashy like status. It felt like purpose stitched into silk. As Amara styled her hair into a sleek bun, she spoke softly. Sister, you walked into that house to survive, but you were never meant to remain invisible. Zara closed her eyes, letting the words sink in. Then Mrs. Moji, the elderly cook, appeared at the door. When she saw Zara dressed in the emerald gown, her eyes filled with emotion she rarely showed. My daughter, she whispered, go with dignity. Don't let them see you shaking. She lifted her hands and prayed simple, tender Yoruba English prayers that wrapped Zara like armor. When she finished, Zara hugged her. Thank you, Mama. With her small handbag in hand, Zara stepped out of the BQ. The sun lit her gently, almost reverently. She wasn't just going to their event. She was going to reclaim her name. To reclaim herself. This time, she would not walk in as a maid. She would walk in as the woman she had always been. The sun was beginning to soften when Zara stepped into the taxi heading toward Echo Grand Hall. the most prestigious event center on Licora Island. The driver glanced at her through the mirror, the emerald gown, the calm posture, the quiet confidence. "You're attending a big event, madam," he said. Zara smiled politely. "Something like that." Inside her chest, her heart beat steadily, not from fear, not from excitement, from resolve. When the taxi stopped in front of the glowing building, the crowd of Licora elites shimmered in lace, silk, and tailored suits. Photographers clicked at familiar faces. Chauffeurs opened car doors. The air smelled of wealth and perfume. But when Zara stepped out, the world paused. The emerald dress flowed like soft water. Her skin glowed in the golden light. Her bun was sleek, her face calm, the kind of presence that didn't beg for attention, but silenced rooms simply by existing. She walked through the sliding glass doors with slow, steady steps. Inside Echo Grand Hall, chandeliers glittered above marble floors. A jazz band played softly in the corner. Lawyers, CEOs, influencers, and socialites filled the room with the hum of expensive laughter. Vanessa stood at the cocktail table mid-laugh, telling a group of guests how Adrian's maid might show up in slippers. Then the main doors opened, and her smile collapsed. Guests turned one by one, eyes widening as Zara entered. Elegance wrapped in grace, dignity stitched into silence. She didn't rush. She didn't shrink. She walked like a woman who belonged. Whispers rose. "Who is that? Is she a partner's wife? She looks like she owns half of Licora. Maybe a diplomat?" On the far end of the hall, Adrian Cole Lawson looked up from a conversation with senior partners and froze. He didn't recognize her at first. This woman looked nothing like the quiet staff he had ignored. Nothing like the girl Vanessa mocked. Nothing like the maid they expected to embarrass. She looked extraordinary. Vanessa marched across the hall, heels clapping angrily. "Zara," she hissed, "this is not the kitchen." Zara turned to her with a soft, effortless smile. "I know, Ma. That's why I dressed for the hall." A ripple of muffled laughter spread among nearby guests. Adrian stepped closer, speechless. Chief Bello raised his brows, impressed despite himself. But Zara didn't look at any of them for approval. She stood tall, serene, radiant, a quiet storm wrapped in emerald. They had invited her to mock her. Instead, she had walked into their world already shining, and they couldn't look away. The murmurs inside Echo Grand Hall softened, shifting into a curious hum as Zara stood beneath the chandelier's soft gold light. The room wasn't used to silence, but her presence created it naturally, the way sunrise hushes the world before birds remember to sing. Chief Bello approached her first, adjusting his agbada with newfound respect. "You didn't tell us Adrian had this kind of presence in his household," he said, eyes scanning her gown, her calm expression. Adrian cleared his throat awkwardly, the first hint of uncertainty cracking through his usual composure. "She works in my home," he said quietly. "This is Zara." One of the senior partners blinked in surprise. "This is your staff? She doesn't look like..." Zara smiled politely. "Like staff, sir?" The man chuckled, embarrassed. "I suppose not." Vanessa folded her arm tightly, anger stiffening her jaw. She had orchestrated this moment to destroy Zara. Instead, the lawyer who once ignored Zara was now seeing her through eyes that struggled to hide admiration. Trying to regain control of the moment, Vanessa forced a laugh. "She only reads small surface things in Adrian's documents. She doesn't understand anything deep." Zara turned toward her slowly, not in hostility, but with the calm confidence of someone carrying truth. I actually focus more on your community dispute cases, she said gently. They have very rich case studies. I learned a lot. A soft O spread across the circle of guests. Vanessa's smile wobbled. Adrian stared at Zara, struggling to reconcile the quiet maid he barely noticed with the articulate woman who now commanded the room, without raising her voice. His mind raced through memories, her arranging his legal files with uncanny accuracy, her silent efficiency, her calm intelligence he had dismissed as good housekeeping. He had never asked who she truly was. But tonight, he was beginning to wonder. Before anyone could speak again, the entrance doors opened. Slow, intentional, commanding, conversations died instantly. A tall man in a gray caftan stepped in, draped with a silk scarf. His presence was quiet, but powerful. Mr. Pierre Okafor-Jacques, the Nigerian French philanthropist and humanitarian giant whose work was known across Africa. He moved through the hall, shaking hands with dignitaries, greeting partners. Then he saw her. He froze. Zara turned, and for a moment, time bowed. Mr. Pierre's face lit up with recognition, not confusion, not politeness. Recognition. Zara Nkem Adeyemi? Every head snapped toward her. Zara blinked once. Good evening, sir. Mr. Pierre stepped forward, eyes wide. My goodness, you are the same Zara who coordinated the literacy camps in Kaduna, yes? The one who anchored our language recovery projects? A wave of shock crashed through the hall. Vanessa's hand slipped from her clutch. Adrian's breath caught. Chief Bello stared like he had seen a ghost. The girl they invited to mock, the maid they ignored. Was the woman a global humanitarian leader remembered by name? And the night was only beginning. Echo Grand Hall fell into a reverent hush, the kind reserved for royalty or revelation. But tonight it belonged to Zara Nkem Adeyemi. Mr. Pierre Okafor-Jacques stood before her, eyes bright with admiration, not surprise. You disappeared after the Abuja office closed, he said warmly. I searched for you. You were one of our strongest coordinators. Gasps fluttered through the hall. Vanessa staggered back a step. Adrian's heart thudded. Chief Bello looked like someone had slapped him with enlightenment. But Zara remained calm, grounded, dignified, steady like a tree that had learned to bend in storm after storm. It's good to see you too, sir, she replied gently. Mr. Pierre turned to the crowd, voice rising with conviction. For those who do not know, this young woman helped manage over 700 girls across our Northern Literacy program. She speaks 7 languages. She was the bridge between displaced women and our international team. She wrote half of the reports that secured our funding. Silence. Then a wave of murmuring awe. People who hadn't given her a second glance earlier now stared with full respect. They looked at her like they were seeing a rare jewel that had been mistaken for glass. Even the jazz band fell quiet. Adrian's eyes softened with something he wasn't ready to name: regret, admiration, awakening. He finally realized what he had been blind to. Zara had not simply walked into his home, she had carried an entire world he never bothered to see. Vanessa, trembling with humiliation, forced a bitter laugh. Well, she didn't mention any of this. How would we know? Zara's voice flowed like calm water. You never asked. Simple, soft, sharper than any insult could ever be. Guests exchanged glances. Vanessa's face reddened. Mr. Pierre laughed gently. She has always been like this, quiet, brilliant, purposeful. When others are speaking noise, Zara speaks meaning. He turned back to her. Are you working in development again? Zara inhaled. Steady. No, sir. Life changed. Circumstances changed. A shadow passed through her eyes, her father's illness, her survival struggles, the weight of responsibility. Mr. Pierre nodded with understanding, deeper than pity. My foundation would be grateful to have you back. Your mind, your heart, they're rare. The crowd gasped again. A job offer, a public recognition, an open door to the world she once shaped. Adrian's chest tightened with something sharp, the realization that the maid he overlooked was in fact a woman the world respected. Chief Bello leaned toward Adrian. You didn't tell us she was this kind of asset. I didn't know, Adrian whispered, and he finally understood the truth. He hadn't seen her because he never looked. Across the room, Zara stood like dawn breaking through a long night, poised, humble, powerful in her silence. Tonight, she wasn't just reclaiming her identity. She was reclaiming her future. And the entire hall was watching. The hall still buzzed with shock as Mr. Pierre Okafor-Jacques praised Zara. But beneath the admiration, a quieter shift was happening, one that neither she nor the guests fully understood. They were witnessing a woman step back into her destiny. Yet, amid the applause, the whispered gasps, the sudden respect, Zara stood still, calm, humble, grounded. It was the stillness of someone who had learned to walk through fire without letting the flames claim her voice. Adrian stepped closer for the first time that night, truly seeing her. His eyes softened with a mixture of awe and guilt. Zara, he murmured, I didn't know. Her gaze met his, steady and unbroken. You never asked, sir? The words were gentle, but they struck him deeper than any accusation. Before he could respond, Vanessa pushed forward, her voice trembling with a bitterness she could no longer hide. Why are we acting like she is some miracle? She's just... But she didn't finish. Because Chief Bello, the loudest, most intimidating man in the room, lifted a hand and silenced her. Respect yourself, he said sharply. This young woman has achieved more than most people in this hall. The entire room erupted in subtle nods and murmurs of agreement. Vanessa's face turned crimson. Zara inhaled slowly, gathering her courage. Thank you, but I'm not extraordinary, she said softly. I only did what needed to be done. Mr. Pierre smiled. That humility is why you changed lives. A waiter approached with wine, but Zara shook her head politely. She needed her mind clear tomorrow. Her life might look different. Adrian took a step closer again. If you ever want to leave the house job. But Mr. Pierre cut him off with a warm laugh. She's not returning to housework, my dear boy, not after tonight. Zara's brows lifted slightly. I haven't decided anything yet, sir. And that, he said, is your power. You choose this time. Guests murmured, again admiration, respect, realization. They now understood what the night had taught them. Dignity is not granted by wealth. Worth is not measured by status. Silence does not mean weakness, and every person carries a story deeper than what the eye can judge. Zara lowered her eyes briefly, overwhelmed but composed. Her hands steadied at her sides. She had walked into the hall expecting humiliation. She was walking out with her identity restored. And as the music rose softly again, something inside her shifted. Not pride, not revenge, freedom. The freedom of a woman who remembered herself. The freedom of a name reclaimed. the freedom of finally stepping into the light that was always hers.